So if, according to Moran, there are two disciplines, if it is interaction between them, if it is dialogue, that's enough to claim interdisciplinarity things. Again, if to compare this definition with the definition which is proposed by John Aram, he didn't invent his own definition. He made a research of American colleagues, and he asked them to define what is interdisciplinarity for them. So he gets two possible answers, and he said that that's what people in the academia think what the interdisciplinarity is. So his definitions are pretty close to that of Moran, and the first one says that new knowledge from confluence, fusion, or synthesis of disciplines. Again, new knowledge, and we have some disciplines, more than two, let's say. Again, the second one is new perspectives by borrowing from other disciplines or from the interplay between them. Which means, again, that there is not necessarily all the time to talk about this trans, multi, and stuff like that. We can understand the interdisciplinary much easier. So the main problem when we talk about interdisciplinarity, so there is a kind of contrast between disciplined knowledge and interdisciplinary knowledge. And sometimes, especially those who think that interdisciplinarity is kind of useful thing, they try to say what Kęstas already showed, that discipline, they are ancient things, they are not really useful, they are closed, they behave just like academic tribes or in their closed academic territories. And then they claim that interdisciplinarity can cross the borders and can solve the problems that cannot be solved by one discipline. And interesting quotation I found about these things is attributed to Roberta Frank, and she really nicely tried to explain why some persons are involved in interdisciplinarity and why they claim it to be really important thing. So, quotation, interdisciplinary have something to please everyone. Its base, disciplina, is hoary and antiseptic. Its prefix, inter, is hairy and friendly. Unlike fields with their mud, cows, and corn, the Latinate disciplina comes encased in stainless steel. It suggests something rigorous, aggressive, hazardous to master. Inter hints that knowledge is a born, mutually developing, consultative thing. So if we understand that there is, let's say, disciplines that has something to deal with power, they are not really changing, they are really conservative things. So interdisciplinarity means that everything what is good can be attributed to them. But again, if we try to look at the geographical issues, so sometimes it is obvious that here, let's say in Lithuania, interdisciplinarity is really a buzzword, and it really doesn't work. Why? Because we do not have really a strong and really good disciplines established. Because, let's say, especially in social sciences and humanities, 22 years is not enough period to claim that something would happen. And usually, if we ask some evaluators who try to evaluate, let's say, researchers or PhD theses, they say that the more interdisciplinary work is, the more bullshit you can find in it. And sometimes interdisciplinarity means more talking nonsenses without saying what's good, what's bad, other things. And this interdisciplinarity, I mean, comes second, only after the disciplines are really strong, influential, and they are already established. I would like to comment the case of Lithuanian philosophy because I know it's quite good, because I did some research on it, and I tried to figure out whether we can talk about Lithuanian philosophical tradition or Lithuanian philosophical school. The question was whether it is already established or not. I tried to cover a period from 1989, when philosophy studies were again legal in Lithuania, and I covered a period of 22 years. And I checked the 3 most influential philosophical journals. It's Problemos, Philosophia, Sociologia, and Logos. And I tried to look whether we can find any discussions, debates, communication between Lithuanian colleagues. And it appeared that no discussions, no debates are available during 20 years. Again, it appeared that there was only once 2 persons tried to provoke colleague to respond. It was article, then it was reaction, but the author of the first article, he refused to react to the critique of his thing. And during 22 years, I think, there were only 7 mentioning of other colleagues in the context that thank you for such and such, for proving the text, or having really good remarks and something like this. Which means that in academic journals, that are the field, the place, area for discussions and debates, for promoting knowledge, nothing of this kind happens. Then I tried to look at what level colleagues quote each other. And it appeared that the biggest number of quotations belongs to one professor. And the sad thing about this, that he was quoted only 15 times during 16 years, which means 1 quotation per year. And if to compare with articles that are published per year, it would be around 100. So the numbers are really, really low. And again, if we speak about the situation in Lithuanian philosophy, it lacks lots of, in order to be really, as they call it, let's say Randall Collins, high consensus discipline. Much to be done in order to establish it, but I want to quote one of my colleague who tries to explain what's going on in Lithuanian philosophy, and it could be interpreted both ways, either pro-interdisciplinary things or counter-interdisciplinary issues. So the quotation goes like this. It's Nerijus Mikus. In Lithuania, even philosophy beginners and dummies are able to become first-comers or pioneers. In sense, they can introduce into philosophical field such topics which were not noticed or elaborated before. This pseudo-innovativeness doesn't establish uniqueness of philosophical standpoint. It rather enables colonized specific and independent territory, topics. Lithuanian innovativeness provides one with privilege to be the only pundit in a narrow philosophical territory. And again, some philosophical topics are avoided not because they are not interesting theoretically, but because they are already occupied by other pundits, and this means that you are not allowed by consensus, unwritten consensus, to enter the territory. And the funniest part of this quotation is the following thing, that in Lithuania, truly original would be the only one person. Not the first, because everyone is first, but the second. The guy who would be the second, he would be really original, he would be out of context, and he would be different. So, what I wanted to say that when we talk about interdisciplinarity, it doesn't mean only good things and only travel, which could be described as mental activity, but it also has very strong geographical aspects in it. And when we try to compare it and to look what's going on in, let's say, British universities, so I wouldn't say that what Steve Fuller mentioned could be applicable to some Lithuanian universities, but concerns, let's say, this interdisciplinarity activities. And so, when we talk about this, again, we are back to nobody, back to hobbits, and we have to say that when we deal with conservative structures, just like departments, just like faculties, we can say that there are, let's say, hobbits, there are Jedis, there are elves, there are dwarves in the fields, and usually they are really conservative and they want to transgress the boundaries, as one famous article tried to say.